thank you so very much for joining me. I am Anna with Craft Me a Card, and again, I am crafting for the crafter, and that is you. How can I stay away from working with these pressed flowers? They just have me in awe, and I am truly enjoying working with them, and there's so many possibilities. I will link the video where I show how I press these flowers in case you would like to play along. In this video, I'm going to share another idea of where I am adding these pressed flowers to a die cut. And I will share along the way tips and tricks on how to elevate your cards and add a little something extra to make them more special. And at the end, I will share how I created these balloons, which look amazing. I'm going to be using this bicycle die, which I think is super cute. And what I do is I cut it out 3 times and I just stack these dies one on top of the other. And this is just to make it more chipboard-like, a little thicker. It's also just a way to make it more sturdy because I'm going to be popping it up a bit. And it also helps to add a little bit more dimension to the bicycle. Okay, so first I start off with this baby's breath. And this baby's breath was dried just as is. It was not pressed. I like it because it gives it that very sweet and tender look. Bringing in the hot glue gun, I go ahead and I put some in the base in the basket, and then from there I start building the flowers, adding different colors in different places just to make it look like this basket is overflowing with all these beautiful flowers. Take the liberty to snip off any pieces of flower that you don't want. Don't be afraid of customizing these flowers to what you need. Adding these pressed flowers is an amazing way to elevate your cards. When the recipient learns that these are real flowers, their eyes always widen and they pay a little more attention to the work that was put into making their card. Adding pressed flowers is a very inexpensive way to elevate your projects. I do have to remind you there is a difference between pressing them in a book and pressing them using a flower pressing kit. Using tweezers, I go ahead and I add glue to these flowers and I just start placing them everywhere and anywhere I feel that this basket could benefit from flowers, filling any little space. And at this point, I think it is complete. Look at this. Isn't this gorgeous? It's just beautiful. So satisfying. Okay, so I am going to use this embossing folder that I have not opened yet, but I think it's going to be perfect. So I know I want my background to be very smooth, very soft. And Copic markers are some that I don't use enough. So I go ahead and I bring these markers. They're alcohol markers. So I figured, okay, if I add alcohol to them, it will dilute them. So that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm going to be doing the smushing technique. So I'm just scribbling on some color here onto my surface and then adding some 99% alcohol. I dilute it. And then bringing in my cardstock, and this is just regular cardstock. I believe this is 110 pound. I go ahead and I do the smushing technique. Smushing technique is just bringing the cardstock onto your ink and smushing it against the color. So I go all over my cardstock, just trying to fill up the space, adding more color, more alcohol, and then just working it. And I decided to add 2 different colors here. At some points I bring in 3 colors, but for the most part I stick with 2. You could do whatever colors you want. And please, this does not only have to be with Copic markers, it could be with your ink pads. You've seen me do this technique with the oxide ink, with the alcohol inks, with regular ink pads. This technique could be done with anything. But I really like the look that the Copic markers is giving this paper. It's just smoother. And you could probably get this look using the oxide inks, adding more water to it, I think. But I'm really enjoying this, and there are a lot more colors that I am allowing myself to play with. So once I think I have what I want, I go ahead and I speed up the drawing process using my heat gun. I really like the movement that the Copic markers are creating on my cardstock. Okay, now bringing in that embossing folder, I go ahead and I just put the cardstock in and I run it through my machine. And voila, here is the piece nicely embossed. I don't know, embossing just always makes everything look so awesome. It's always a great way to elevate your card as well. Adds dimension and a different texture. So I go ahead and I trim it down, just cutting off the edges. And as I'm looking at this piece and I'm putting the bicycle right on top of it, I decide to flip it around and I see that the back piece is a little more subtle. It's a little bit more of what I'm looking for. So I decide to glue my bicycle onto the back side. Even though the embossing is on the other side, you could still see the dimension and you could still see the different texture that this card is going to have. Sorry, my camera stopped recording right when I was attaching my bicycle to my card base. I wanted this bicycle to be more dimensional, so a great way to elevate a card is by adding dimension to it. I didn't want to deal with the little pieces of the foam adhesive, so what I did instead was using the same glue of the glue gun. I added little blobs in certain parts of the bicycle that I knew would not peek through, like the wheels, the basket, and I added the silicone glue, letting it cool. And as you know, silicone glue dries hard. So by adding these little blobs in certain parts and letting it cool, it created a dimension. Now, I wanted for this card to have a shiny background. So by adding some embossing ink, I went ahead and I dragged it around my card and I added some white embossing powder. And then with my hot gun, I went ahead and I melted this embossing pattern, and this gave this border a nice shiny look. Using some multimedia glue, I went ahead and I attached my main panel onto my card base. It has to be multimedia glue because the embossing powder creates a surface that is like plastic. It's very smooth and non-porous. So the multimedia glue is the one to use. Okay, so of course you know I have to add my corners. This is another way to elevate your cards is by adding corners. It just makes the eye go all around the card. Now I didn't want the corners to be the same tone as the background of the bicycle, and I didn't want the corners to be the same white as my border because they would get lost with the frame. So I decided to create a separate piece using the same colors and the same technique as I did for the background of the bicycle. The only thing different that I did was add more color. I saturated it more, made it darker. So this gave me the same tone of purple, but just darker. Perfect for the corners. So I cut the four corners and my sentiment, thankful for you, out of this darker cardstock. The sentiment was also cut multiple times in order to give them more thickness. Again, using some multimedia glue, I stick these corners onto my card base. Here's a trick for you. I didn't add the glue to the whole piece of the corner. What I did instead was just add glue on two sides of the edges and attach these to the card. This way my corners would have some lift to them. They will not be glued flat on the card. This is also a nice way to give variety of texture to your card. I go ahead and I glue the sentiment onto my card, thankful towards the top of the card and for you towards the bottom. And with this, I believe this card is complete. I absolutely love how it came out. So much that I made another card using different colors, and these are my favorite colors. This is the teal, the mint teal color, which drives me crazy in love. So I created this one, but I couldn't stop. I could not stop. I wanted to create a birthday card because I'm so in love with how this card looks. In order for it to be considered a birthday card in my eyes is that I had to add something birthday-y-ish. So I added some balloons. Let me show you how I made these balloons. Grabbing a balloon die, I went ahead and I cut out some balloons out of some clear plastic. And this is plastic that came in some packaging. Here I do pull out my alcohol inks. Grabbing some drops, I added color to this plastic. And just move it around with your finger to give the ink movement on the plastic. Once it's towards one side, just leave it alone to dry. And I wanted to give it that 3D look, so I added some glossy accents. Glossy accents is also a great way to elevate your cards. It's clear and dimensional. You've seen me use glossy accents in many other different ways. In this case, it's going to make these balloons look dimensional. My daughter made the comment that they look like glass, and they really do look like pieces of glass. Once the glossy accent is dry, using some hot glue, I went ahead and I attached these to the card. And I was very pleased because you couldn't really see the silicone glue through these balloons. So this was the perfect adhesive for these balloons. And of course, don't forget your string. And I just went ahead and I tucked these strings behind the flowers in the basket. I also went ahead and I attached a cute little bow to the basket. I thought the addition of the bow would be cute. I am so happy with these cards. I just think they're just gorgeous. They're really stunning, especially when you see these in person. I wish I could make one for everyone in the world who likes flowers. Okay, so this is the end of this tutorial. I hope you get inspired. I hope you create, and most importantly, be happy. Thank you so very much for joining me, and I encourage you to please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit the notification bell, like, and comment. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. You are such a little brat. Ugh. Flowers are like falling over like that. See how cute that looks? Oops. Oh my goodness. So teeny weeny 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 weeny. Oops. So teeny. Ooh, no. Yikes. Burn alert. Ow. Yes, burn alert was right. Ouch. Ouch. Whatever. Get in there. Come on, you little sucker. How stinking cute that is. I love it.